Welcome into the Trevor Staub Show, episode number 58. Today we have a returning guest. We've got Silas Schultz joining the show today. We're going to talk to him about his recent emergence on tour. You may have seen him go nuts at Champions Cup, taking fourth place there with a few scorching hot rounds and course records. Also had a nice top 15 at Jonesborough, so we're going to catch up with him. He's going to give us some awesome insight into those rounds and just how he's been feeling with his game lately. Let's jump into it. All right, we welcome on our guest for the show this week. Today we have Silas Schultz, recently kind of exploded at the Champions Cup. Had to bring him on. Thanks for joining the show, Silas.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I wanted to bring you on the show. You've had a really good season so far, in particular the last few weeks. So I wanted to catch up, see how things have been going. Even before we get into the previous few weeks and everything that's been going on, you had a decent start to the season. A couple decent finishes, a pretty good one at Waco in particular. What was confidence like for you going into this year compared to the last one?
I think it was just way higher. I think going into last year, it was my first year on tour. I didn't really know what to expect. And I got wrecked pretty just immediately by Texas and the conditions and things like that. And so I learned a lot of good lessons throughout the year, was able to apply those and finish the year on like a really good note. And so confidence going into the year was much higher. And I felt like if I was able to kind of be consistent and just like learn the stuff that I had already knew and like learned and just like apply that, I guess, it was going to be a good year. So I was excited. I wasn't, feeling like I didn't have crazy expectations or anything, but I knew it was going to be much better than last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly there's almost always going to be a learning year, in particular with the tour and like just making that adjustment, because last year obviously was your first year really going for it out there.
Yeah.
So obviously the season starts pretty well, and then you get the Champions Cup and things go very well. So going into that event, is that a course that you're super familiar with, one that you had a lot of confidence going into?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was really excited to play it. Last year, I threw the disc really, really well at Champions Cup, and then just like had the yips, the worst I've ever had them. And so on the green, and so like I struggled on the green, threw the disc about as good as anybody. And like was shooting like 3 under with the potential for like 9 under every round. You know what I mean? And so I knew like after one practice round that if I was able to kind of just keep my head where it needs to be, that it was going to be a good week.
Yeah, what do you feel like, obviously I think that answers my next question, which is, was putting a big part of your success out there. But like, what do you feel the difference is in your mental game when you kind of have the yips on the green versus when you're able to kind of block things out and make a lot of your putts? Because I think you were 89% C1X for the tournament, which is like technically 35th in the field, but it's good. It's good. Like
Right.
it's a good percentage. And you were pretty effective from C2 as well. So like, what is the difference for you, and what's the ideal mental state that you get into?
Well, I think the major difference, like year to year, was like my putting form is not even close to the same. Like I reworked it. I played Champions Cup, DDO, went home, reworked my form, and put up like mid 70s probably in the circle to finish out the year, which is like not the best, but also like you can kind of get by with that.
Yeah.
I think the best mental state for me on the green is probably just a lot of trust in myself. You know what I mean? I think you can get like overwhelmed with like the putt itself. But I think just get to a point where I'm like, I don't take as much time. I trust myself that I know what I'm doing.
Right.
That like I feel like in practice it's like a lot of like we watch NBA players warming up, they're hitting all their threes. You know what I mean?
Right.
You get in the game, different type of shot, you have defense and things like that, and they don't make as much. And so I feel like disc golf is different though, because there's no defenders. You know what I mean? If you can get your mind kind of in a similar state of the practice putts, then like on the course, I feel like you're in a good spot. So just a point where I value the putt enough to give it the proper amount of focus and respect, but not too much to where it freaks me out and I'm like upset when I miss it. You know what I mean? Or overwhelmed by missing it. So I felt like, during the Champions Cup, it was, I was throwing the disc really good. So I didn't have like a ton of putts. A lot of like 22 to 28 footers, which can get really nervy.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where I was just a lot of focus and trust in myself that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, I feel like there's a very fine line. Like some players, like Big Germ, for example, kind of just step up and throw the putt. Like don't even stand over for a second. Some
Sure.
guys have to sit over it a little longer. But I feel like everybody has that sweet spot of like, okay, here is where I'm not going to walk away from the putt being like, I didn't even focus there, because that's the most
Right.
frustrating thing.
Right.
And then, okay, but on the other side is I stood over that for way too long, and you have to find that happy medium of like, this was not overthinking, not underthinking, and it's different for everybody. So I think that's a big key for sure.
Yeah.
So when you are on a kind of a streak like you were on, rounds or days 1, 2, and 4, you were basically unstoppable. Just taking over the course at that point, all the way foot on the gas. When you're playing like that, where you are just piling on birdies, you're shooting up the leaderboard, whatever it might be. Do you feel like you kind of go into like a blackout, like unconscious mode, or is it more of like you're feeling the pressure each time, knowing that like I need to keep this momentum going, like I better stay locked in? Like how does it feel like in those moments?
Ooh, I mean, yeah, a lot of people like I've heard
So many people
say,
describe it that way, and I'm like, is that really true?
yeah, like, oh, Silas, he's unconscious right now. Or my favorite is like, oh wow, that drive on hole 1 really showing he doesn't have any nerves, but for the lead card at a major. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not really how it is. I wish
Yeah.
that's how it was. I think a lot of it is channeling the nerves to turn it into focus.
Yeah.
Like nerves and like nerves are okay, but doubt is not okay. And
Yeah.
so you don't ever want to be nervous to the point of doubting yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a little extra adrenaline, helping you to step up to the moment, understand that it means a lot, and giving it the like correct amount of focus is really good. I think like I think the best way of playing it to like be able to stack birdies on top of each other is to just really, and everyone says it, but one shot at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to, and it's really hard. It's really hard because
Yeah.
I'm playing final round. I've hadn't parred in forever.
Right.
Like you think about it, like people say like, oh, he hasn't parred in, it's been 7 holes or whatever, but it's been like an hour. You know what I mean? I haven't parred in an hour or however long time it is. Like that is hard to stay focused on each shot.
Yeah.
And you'll have moments of breaking through where it's like, oh snap, like I haven't parred in a minute. But you have to, like, I don't know if suppress is the right word, but kind of disregard those feelings. Like I understand what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes to the routine and throwing the shot, none of that matters. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think whenever I was a younger player, I'm a very young player, but I think a little while ago, maybe last year, a lot of birdies starts making you nervous because there's now some sort of expectation for a round or something, and it's hard to, like, you just get scared and that you're not gonna be able to close it out or something, and that can cause doubt, of just like, oh, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more while I was at Champions Cup, my reaction was just like, like I'm playing on card with, like lead card with Isaac, who's doing the same thing. You know what I mean? And so I'm not doing anything special. Everyone's seeing someone shred. And so it's not special in that way, but also, I'm just excited because there's no other place I would want to be in the round than having birdied every hole. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So just excited for where I'm at, but also try not to get overwhelmed with the moment itself.
Yeah, it's a balance, and I think you definitely are right about like the pressure thing. I think a lot of players could learn from the idea that like feeling pressure can be a very good thing if you can learn how to turn it into positive like focus.
For sure.
Because one of the things that I think it was Ezra told me this a while back that like really struck me is he was like, how often in like everyday life do you get to feel pressure, like good pressure, like sports pressure, not like life pressure? Like how often you get to feel that? So like you should just, teach yourself to enjoy that. Like, hey, this is fun. This is a pressure moment. And I think a lot of players could learn from that instead of like feeling the nerves and being like, well, this is it. It's all going downhill from here.
Right.
It's very easy to turn it either way. So rounds 1 and 2, obviously you come out very hot. Round 3 is where you kind of tripped up. What in particular was it that you struggled with on that day? Obviously, all of your stats were down a little bit, but do you feel like nerves caught up to you, or was it just an off day?
No, I think it was just um, the day before was my first time on lead card at a major,
Hmm.
and so that comes with, it's very new. Everything's really new, and I didn't know how I was going to be able to handle it, and I handled it well. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But the second day, second time on a lead card doesn't feel like first time on a lead card. It's a different day, different golf, different. I mean, pretty much the same conditions, but I think it was a little windier. But I think I just I didn't know what my reaction would be. It was
Yeah.
less nerves. I was a little more comfortable, and because of that, I don't feel like I had the same focus that I had the day before.
Mm.
And the day before, it was just like you're really focused, you're throwing well, just let it happen. Like don't get ahead of yourself, just let the birdies come. And the next day, it was like I wasn't as focused. It was a little more windy, and it wasn't happening. I was trying to
Yeah.
let it happen, and nothing was happening. And so on hole 7, I was talking to my caddy, and I was like, it's just not happening, but we got to make it happen. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
birdied 8, barely missed a putt on 9, and then got 5 in a row. So like, whenever I kind of flipped that switch and just like realized what I was doing, what I needed to do, I was able to kind of pull it together. 2 bogeys at the end, kind of like not great shots that got super punished. So like,
Yeah.
really bad kick on 15, and then 16 like hit a tree that's like an inch long and kicked backwards out of bounds. And like,
Typical Woods.
right, yeah, and it's like I didn't lace any lines, and so I can't really be mad. But like overall, the round that I played was pretty good after that point. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it was just a little different day, felt a little different, and then I kind of had to learn on the fly how to adjust.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you were able to turn that around going into day 4 because day 4, things got interesting.
Yeah.
At one point, only 2 back from the lead. Obviously, you're a few holes ahead. What was like, how much were you paying attention to that? And like, where was like percentage of confidence that like, oh, I might actually get back into this and win it?
Um, yeah, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to it. I was talking to Nicholas in the field, and he was like, "Do you think anyone can catch him?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, it's sports. Like somebody can catch him for sure."
Yeah.
The only way it happens though is someone has to apply pressure early and
Yeah.
probably continue to apply pressure throughout, and then he's going to have to choke.
Yeah.
Because even if I shoot an 18, he only needs an 8. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I feel like he could easily shoot an 8.
Oh, yeah.
So, he was going to have to choke, which I was like, he hasn't shown any signs of, but it's lead card in a major. It wouldn't be like ridiculous for him to
Sure.
mess up, even though it felt that way because he hadn't messed up yet.
Yeah.
So, I was just, I didn't think I was the person to
Yeah.
make that push. I was, so far back. But I birdied hole 1, and then I parked hole 2, and then I made a good putt on 3, and then made a 50-footer on 4, and I was like, okay, I mean that's good. And then I parred hole 5, which was good, and then I just like 20-footer for birdie, 20-footer for birdie, 20-footer for birdie, 20-footer for birdie, and just got them all and was stringing them together. And then threw a great scramble on 9. Walking to the next tee again was like, hey, you got to keep it up. And I was like, okay. And he was like, no, for real. Which he knew and I knew meant you're making a push. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Because for all I know, I'm not checking scores. Isaac could be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So birdie the next hole, chain out for ace in the next hole, hit the last tree and almost eagle that hole. So I wasn't paying that much attention. I knew regardless, I need to birdie everything to have
Yeah.
any chance. And
Yeah.
so the bogey on 14 was so close to not being a bogey. And then I only bogeyed 15 because I ran a 80-footer down a hill
Right.
for birdie, which is what I want to do.
Sure.
Like 80-footer, and that's going to, if I make it, then I have a chance of winning a major. We're running that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it cooled off a little bit, but good putt on 16. Overall, though, it was that's when I knew. I was like, even after I bogeyed 14, Gannon told me, he's like, you still got a shot. I was like, at what? He was like, at winning. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel like if that ace would have stuck, things could have been different. That would have been like, because at that point it just seemed like nothing could go wrong. Like it was just like birdie after birdie, and it was like you started closing that gap, and an ace would have been like, oh my gosh, like here we really go. This is happening. That was when you heard the chains. Like, did your heart just drop? Like
I didn't hear the chains.
Oh, really?
I heard nothing from the tee. So I throw my shot, and I'm like,
It's a pretty far
money. yeah, it was like I threw it and I just turned around after it missed, went through the corner, and I was like, that's perfect. And then in my play on that hole, like I'm not saying like I'm playing to ace it, but I
Right.
could go mid range on that shot. But I decided like fairway's a little easier, and
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna end up long. And if I end up long on a high swing out backhand, like could catch some metal,
Yeah.
like
Who knows?
who knows? And
Right.
so I throw it, I say it's perfect. I knew it was coming in hot. I walk back, and then there's like a group of maybe 4 or 5 guys who are a little bit further off the tee box and can see the basket, and they kind of flip out and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you hit the cage!" And I was like, "Oh, sick!" Like it probably just hit the cage and sat right down. And then I get down there, and Bob, who was running catch cam, was like, "You were this close," and I was like, "Must have hit high cage." And then I get
Yeah.
down there, and it's past the basket by like 20 feet, and I have a comebacker, and I was like, must have bounced off the side of the cage.
Yeah.
And then I just forgot about it. Like didn't affect me, didn't raise any adrenaline, nothing. I'm signing a little kid's disc like 2 hours after my round, and he was like, "Dude, you almost aced 11." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I wonder if they posted that highlight." So I opened up Facebook and they had posted the clip, and I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah. A
no
lot closer than you
way!"
thought. Yeah.
Yes, I was like, I had no, and Bob said it was close, and I'm like, okay, he knows, but I was just like completely unrattled. And like, yes, maybe I aced that hole. I missed the tree on 12, and I'm 13 down through 12,
Yeah.
and that's nuts. But maybe I ace, and I'm just so shaken up with adrenaline. I'm not able to control anything after that round, and I bogey
True.
out. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it would have been really something special to be playing that hot and then throw a perfect drive.
That would have been, yeah, it certainly would have been pretty insane. So right after Champions Cup, obviously you finished fourth, super high finish at a major, really great finish. And then the next week, though, you're able to follow up with a top 15 at Jonesborough, which I feel like is almost just as crucial as having a good finish, especially when you're newer to the tour, somebody who's learning, following it up after everybody kind of sees you emerge onto the scene, I feel like is super huge. How crucial do you think it was to prove to yourself and the fans that it wasn't like a one-hit wonder situation? Like, hey, back-to-back weeks, I was right there playing good golf.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really try not to think of like people's expectations. I think that's
Yeah,
really just a bad slope road to go down.
certainly.
And so, but I mean, I acknowledge them. Like I was talking to Gannon before round two, and I was like, dude, everyone's expecting me to choke on lead card. So if I choke, then I choke. And if
Yeah,
I play good, I blow everyone's mind. And then I shoot course record. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
it was kind of just like it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And it was kind of the same thing. Like we're here talking about how it was really good or like impressive that I did well the next week. I was like, yeah, no one really expects me to follow this up. Like it'd be really normal if I barely cash here. But like that's not how I feel about my game. I'm confident on both of those courses. And so I'm just gonna see what happens. You know what I mean? And so every round at Jonesborough I had the opportunity to be like just as good as my Champions Cup rounds. Like I started out almost equally hot first round
hmm
of Jonesborough. I think I was like 10 down through 12 instead of 11.
yeah,
And I just like played hole 5 for par. So like it was just, like a similar thing. I just didn't close out very well. Kind of the same thing the next day, just like a bogey free 9 with like 4 missed inside the circle, and 2 of them were like impossible. One of them I literally threw inside of a tree and had to throw a one foot inside a tree horseshoe putt from 25 that I like
there
didn't
you
make,
go.
and then like I missed another one on 17 where I had like just a Matty O swing almost. So and then round 3 or round 4 no round 3 I played like pretty good, missed some putts in the wind into the band into the cage, and then fell OB by an inch on the last hole to drop like I think maybe I would have been 11th, but like drop out of the top 10 with like just an automatic bogey. So like it was. I mean, I think I had almost a similar confidence in myself like before Champions Cup, like
Yeah,
going into Jonesboro. I believe in myself and my game. But it was definitely like easier playing Jonesboro just because like the camera guy showed up late round 1, and it was normal for me. You know what I mean? Like it
yeah,
didn't feel weird, and so
sure.
it was a like good experience. But I think my confidence level has kind of just been pretty consistent.
Yeah, that's good. It's always good to be there and have that confidence in your game. One thing I was wondering is the last time we talked, like a year ago, obviously you were kind of starting to get your feet wet on tour a little bit. You were still in this like limbo between like, do I want to do like more media stuff? Do I want to tour playing disc golf? I feel like things are starting to change pretty quickly in that arena. So where is your mindset at now with that?
That's a good question. I think it's definitely still something I'm figuring out a balance for, but I'm for sure putting more effort into being a player
Yeah.
at the moment, and so I think I could be successful in both or either. I don't know about both at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's something I enjoy. It's something I think I'll always do in some capacity. But definitely, I think out of the two, being just a pro is taking more of a front place.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard not to when you cash like $5,000 for taking fourth at Champions Cup.
Exactly,
It starts
exactly.
becoming real pretty
That's
quick.
a lot of reels right there that I got to make that much money.
Yeah, which is hey, it's great, playing
Yeah.
disc golf. So, all right. So I had one question also about your run up. Okay, so
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people, I've known your game for quite a bit. I've followed you and seen you throw a lot, but you have a very, like, the way I would describe your run up for both forehands and backhands is downhill.
Okay.
You kind of are all running downhill. You build a lot of like slow to fast momentum. One thing I've like kind of noticed with my game is sometimes having a run up that promotes such heavy commitment, like you are getting yourself to a point of no return essentially,
Yeah.
can actually help with hitting lines. Is that something you've always done with your run up, and is that part of your theory with that, or is it just something that's most comfortable for you?
I think that's a good point of like there is kind of no stopping. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm not quite James Conrad, but like playing with
Yeah.
him, we're standing in similar spots.
Yeah.
He's probably 2 feet maybe behind me max, but we're both definitely off the tee pad. I'm always off the back of the tee pad. Really, what it does for me overall, I think sometimes I throw harder and farther with a shorter run up. Um,
Oh.
but like just a little faster. But what the longer run up does is it creates tempo. And so
Yes.
I go 2 touches to my left hand, a pump, and then I'm back in my rotation, and then I'm fully extended with my right foot hits the ground, and then I'm pulling through. And so really just what that does is, yeah, it helps me to just push my whole body to the gap, follow through the gap, and I don't have to rip it as hard because I have a little bit of extra speed. And then
Yes.
sometimes like it sounds or feels like I'm throwing it hard, but it doesn't really look like it. Like I'm kind of just like one moving, consistent motion. And so, yeah, for me, mostly it's about tempo.
Yeah, well, we got to talk about the snap thing. How do you create such a loud noise? One time, this is a real story. So I always notice whenever you would lav mic yourself, especially, you got such good snap audio. And I was like so jealous because I was like, that's one thing that golf has that we don't is like really awesome audio at the moment of impact. And I
Yeah.
was like, but Silas Schultz gets it. Like he gets this snap.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, I wonder if like, there's a way, like I snap a disc as much as like a normal person would, but not like at any near your decibels. And I was like, I had one of my guys like lav mic me so that I had it attached to my sleeve on my throwing hand, and I still couldn't get a loud enough noise. What is your secret?
um, I don't really know. I think it's kind of, I mean, I power grip everything. So like
Same,
a tight,
same.
firm power grip. I think a lot of it though is like has to do with just like the way how loose and how much of like a rubber band my arm is when it's going. You know what I mean? Like it is
Yeah,
one just like
it's
I
big
don't
whip
know.
effect.
I've
Yeah,
always had that kind of so like even on like some putters in mid range it'll show up. And so usually people have always been like, does that hurt when you do that? It sounds like your finger's breaking. I'm always like, no, no, no. But I've actually like the knuckle on my right middle finger is like really jacked up right now. And I think
really.
yeah, it's bad. It hurt all of last week. And so it was just like ibuprofen and ice the whole time. And so
Dang.
I haven't thrown since I've got home. I might have to get it checked out. I think I did something to my knuckle. So maybe it is
Okay.
bad. Like maybe you shouldn't try to get this. I think also I think my foot impact kind of enhances the sound.
Mm.
And then also, this is not. Some people think this is the sound of my snap, but it's not. Is I'll tuck my left hand so fast that I hit my leg, and so if you hear 2 pops, that's what it is.
That's like a pro wrestling technique. They're like hitting, punching, and stomping on the ground and stuff.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it's confusing to people because they're like, we've heard you make like a really loud snap before, but when we hear pop pop, it's like we don't know what that means. Like, but yeah, sometimes that'll be me hitting my leg. So foot. And then I don't know. I can't explain it. I can't teach it. It just that's how it is.
Snap causes injury. Stay safe out there.
Apparently, yeah.
Dang. Wow. I'm gonna keep trying anyways because it sounds cool.
All right.
All right. So I don't know how often you're pretty versed in social media, but do you frequent TikTok very much these days?
No, I'm not on TikTok. I've never been on TikTok.
It might be on the Instagram Reels. I don't know, but it's been very popular on TikTok. Are these? Obviously, tier lists have been very popular everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's this template. I think it's just a CapCut template, or it might be a TikTok template that popped up. That's basically a tier list. But the trick to it is it's like it'll give them a category like movies, and they have to one at a time drag into their tier list, but they have a set amount of spaces, and they don't know which one's coming next.
Okay.
So I think that makes it very interesting because people will be doing movies, and then their favorite movie of all time comes up on the last one, and they didn't have any spots left near the top of their list.
Okay.
So we are going to do that, but with Discmania molds.
Okay. Awesome.
So the way this works is there's 10 molds. You have one S tier slot. So that's your best one. That is the special tier. That is the highest tier.
Okay.
You have 2 for your A tier, 3 for B tier, and 4 for C tier. So 7 total. But I'm going to give them to you one at a time. So you have to kind of, keep that in mind as you're answering. Like if you already know what your S tier is, I'm trying to name ones that I know you throw and are in your bag. So we're going to start off with a tough one, the MD3.
MD3. Ooh, okay. So good. I'm going to say A tier for the MD3.
Okay, so one of the A tier slots already gone.
It's for beadless mid range. It's like the best beadless mid range out of like any company. I feel like. Well, people love the Buzz, but MD3.
Okay, all right. Next one, the FD. It's not going to be easy. These are discs you all love, so just keep that in mind.
Just because the FD made me $5,000 a couple weeks ago. And I think you can go to the Discmania website and buy one with my signature on it. I'm putting that as my S. I think.
Really?
Yes. Yep. It's like my favorite disc to throw. The new ones are so good, and I have a couple overstable ones, and they're the best. So, for some PR reasons, but just because it's number one in my heart, the FD is going.
All right. So S tier is gone. One of the 2 A2 tier spots is gone. This is going to get interesting.
Oh
next we're going to the PD2.
Ooh. Oh snap. PD2. Wait, so we have B tier.
Lowest is C tier.
How many B tiers do I get?
You get 3 B tiers, 4 C tiers. So there will have to be 4 because you have 10 for 10. So.
Okay, I'm putting PD2 in the B tier.
Okay.
It's really good. But it's going B tier, I think.
Okay.
It's not no bells and whistles to it.
Okay.
It's just good.
The next one, this one I think is going to hit close to home with you, and that is the Sensei.
Oh no. Oh no. No, we're putting him C tier. We got to. I can't give him that. I don't even throw him anymore.
Yo, you
lost
don't.
My last good one.
Were you not able to find any more of the run you liked?
I have a couple more, but they're not the same. It's all tactics for upshots for me and a P2. So, yeah, he's gonna go C tier. Okay.
Okay, that probably helps that you were able to put the Sensei in the C tier.
I think so.
The next one, P2. Probably depends on how well you're putting that day.
That's so tough. So I have 2 A tiers. So if I say this is A tier, that's it.
Your A tier is gone. Yeah.
What else would I want to put A tier? Like DD3? DD3 can go. Oh my goodness. Goodness gracious. Just because it's been like I've putted with it for so long. I went links for a while and that was a mistake. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna put him in A tier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both the A tier slots are gone.
Okay, so my top 3 spots are done.
Yeah, so now it's just B or C.
Okay.
Next, we have the PD.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Wait, so how many more B tiers do I have? 2 or 1?
2,
Okay. Ooh,
and you've
oh my
got 3
gosh.
C tier slots.
Oh my gosh, the PD. It's so good. But then like I'm thinking about the DD3 and I'm thinking about the FD3. PD. Oh my gosh, it hurts my heart to put him in C tier. I don't know if I can do that to him. He's gonna have to go C tier. I'm gonna have to
Oh,
put him
man.
there. I don't want to, but I have to.
Next, we have the MD1.
MD1. Oh, it's so good, and I made a whole YouTube video about it. But he's currently not in the bag because I have an understable MD4. That's like my favorite disc in the world, and so I'm gonna have to put him in C, even though he's so good.
Okay. All right. Well, at this point, you have 1 C tier spot and 2 B tiers.
Okay, good.
So to make it easy on you, I'll give you your last 3, and you just decide which is the C tier.
Okay, perfect.
Of the 3. So the last 3 would be DD3, Instinct, and FD3.
Oh, that's so easy. Instinct goes C tier,
Okay.
and the other 2 are Bs. Okay.
Not friends with the Instinct anymore?
No, the FD. The FD is so good, and so it's
Listen,
all FD.
all I can see is Silas's favorite on the Discmania website. So I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that was a while ago, and that was before we have such good fairways right now. Like
the FDs are kind of stable now, so at least some of them are.
FDs are stable. We have the FD1 that's more
true.
stable. If you to put that in here, I don't even know where I would have to put him. He's at least B. Yeah. So we have really good fairways right now. So the Instinct has phased out.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had started tossing around the FD1 yet or not.
Yeah, I have.
Have you thrown the CD1 yet?
Yes.
What thoughts?
They bomb.
Yeah.
I don't bag one just because I throw my FD so far that it flies very similarly but goes like a little bit further, and I would rather just have one disc in the FD that goes far. So
that makes sense.
It's really good though. I would recommend it to almost all players. Like it's really glidey and fast, and then plays a little bit understable. So yeah.
I was able to throw one yesterday, and it definitely bombs. All right, so last question I wanted to know is, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like you're taking a small break from the tour until Portland in June?
DDO will be my first one.
Okay, DDO. So my question was, does part of you wish that you didn't have a break right now with momentum going on? Are you kind of like anxious to keep momentum going, or are you good to kind of have a little spot to chill?
Like I wouldn't be mad playing any more golf right now. But also like I was in pain for like a lot of my rounds with my finger last week, and so like I'm happy that like it wouldn't be very enjoyable like to keep playing, or maybe even smart. So like logistically, like it just wouldn't work. But I think these last couple weeks have given me confidence, but I think it's given more like other people confidence in me. Like I think I've been like pretty consistent with how much I believe in myself. So I'm still excited. I think expectations are still not super high for me, and I'm not really worried about them anyway. So I'm excited to go back. I think I have a fun stretch of like DDO, Des Moines, and Preserve, which I think all play to my game very well. And so, I'm excited to get back, but I'm also just excited to have a break, reset and work on my putting a little bit more. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we definitely look forward to seeing you back on the tour once you're out there. It sounds like you're in a pretty awesome mental state. Handling expectations and believing in yourself is certainly a big key when out there on tour. But thanks for joining the show. It was great catching up.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, thanks again to Silas for joining the show. Always great having him on and catching up. Wishing him the best of luck with that finger injury, and also excited to see him back on tour whenever he does decide to jump back in. So we will be looking forward to that, and I will see you next week with another episode. We'll see you then.